Hello, Bible readers. It is Tuesday, March 30th. We're reading from Isaiah, 4 chapters, 28 to 31, and Romans chapter 6. Okay, so Romans 6, I'm going to start there. I didn't say much yesterday about how chapter 5 ended. It ended with that confusing section about basically moving from Adam to the Messiah. We had words like law and trespasses and grace and justification. Where sin increased, grace abounded all the more. And it's like, it wasn't easy. In chapter 6, Paul has put himself in a place where he needs to answer a question. Where are Christians on the map that he laid out in that confusing section I didn't talk about, chapter 5, verses 12 to 21? Are Christians in the Adam part of the map, the Adam mode, or with Christ in the Christ mode? In other words, do we live under sin and death still? Or are we living now under grace and righteousness? That's the question that Paul's trying to answer. Since God's grace reaches down into the kingdom of sin to rescue those who are there, is that where we are? So that grace can do its work. Like, can grace not do its work if we are in the Christ mode rather than the Adam mode? And must we then, if we are in the Adam mode, to help God's work along, do we need to sin it up? Like, in order for God's grace to happen, do we need to make a bunch of sinful choices? Those are the questions Paul's trying to address. His claim is that faith pulls us into a new mode, a Christ mode. The transfer of humanity from the Adam mode to the Christ mode happens by dying and rising with Christ. And that dying and rising is accomplished at baptism. So that's the logic Paul is laying out. Baptism, Paul is saying, is a new exodus. As much as the Israelites are saved from and delivered from the power of Pharaoh in Egypt by God, and delivered through Moses. As much as that happened for Israel, baptism is a new exodus, delivering us from evil, from sin in general, or as we'd say, sin, death, and the power of the devil. Chapter 6, what we're reading today, is why Lutherans make such a big deal out of baptism, because we think something really gigantic is happening there. And since it is baptism is completely God's work, where God is accomplishing this transition from an Adam mode to a Christ mode, since it's completely God's work, baptism is God's way of pulling us into new life. Humans don't need to work themselves up to it. Humans don't have to qualify in any way except to be human. It's not our work being done, it's God's work being done. And so we baptize any humans, no matter their age, no matter their gender, no matter their intellect, no matter what, a human is qualified to be baptized, that God may do God's work there. Okay, so obviously I've preached some sermons on this before. All right, Isaiah. We leave the Isaiah apocalypse behind as we enter into this section of Isaiah, and we start a section about Jerusalem in the eye of the Assyrian storm. So it's kind of like a return to the first chapters of Isaiah. We've gone through a couple sections now. The section that's chapters 1 through 12 are a lot like what we're reading today. Instead of big picture prophecies about the last days and the whole world, we're hearing about, in this section today, Israel, Judah, Jerusalem. And it's very familiar themes. Trust in the Lord instead of political forces or alliances. The alliance thing, by the way, chapter 31 nails it. The Lord, not Egypt or any other worldly power that Israel can go into alliance with. The Lord is who protects Jerusalem. So that's why there's such a discouragement from making these alliances and trusting in them. Instead, trust in the Lord. It's almost like a form of idolatry. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.